Good evening, dear listeners. On this peaceful night, I invite you to journey with me through the shadowy corridors of human history. As the world outside grows quiet, we shall explore some of the most devastating events that have shaped our collective past. Throughout human existence, catastrophic disasters have repeatedly altered the course of civilization, leaving permanent marks on our development and consciousness. These tragic events, though difficult to contemplate, offer profound lessons about human resilience, the forces of nature, and our place in this unpredictable world. The study of history's worst disasters reveals much about human vulnerability and strength in equal measure. From ancient civilizations wiped away by natural forces to modern tragedies brought about by technological failures or human error, these calamities have repeatedly tested our species' ability to endure and rebuild. Each disaster, with its unique circumstances and consequences, has contributed to our understanding of risk, preparation, and the delicate balance between human ambition and natural limitations. By examining these events closely, we gain perspective on both our fragility and our remarkable capacity to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. Natural disasters have been particularly persistent throughout human history, striking without discrimination or regard for human development. The ancient eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE buried the Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum under layers of volcanic ash and pumice, preserving a moment of terror for future generations to discover. Similarly, the Black Death pandemic of the 14th century swept across Europe, Asia, and North Africa, claiming an estimated 75 to 200 million lives and fundamentally altering the social structure of medieval society. These events remind us that despite our technological advancements and scientific understanding, certain forces remain beyond our control or complete comprehension. Human-caused disasters represent another category of calamity that has grown increasingly, devastating with our technological development. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster of 1986 rendered vast areas uninhabitable and continues to affect countless lives decades after the initial explosion. The sinking of the RMS Titanic in 1912, often remembered as a cautionary tale of hubris, claimed more than 1,500 lives when the supposedly unsinkable ship struck an iceberg on its maiden voyage. These events, resulting from a complex interplay of technological failure, human error, and institutional shortcomings, demonstrate how our greatest achievements can sometimes become sources of our greatest tragedies. War and conflict have produced some of history's most concentrated and deliberate devastation, with the world wars of the 20th century standing as stark examples of humanity's capacity for self-destruction. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 introduced the world to the apocalyptic potential of nuclear weapons, instantly killing tens of thousands and leaving generations to suffer from radiation effects. The Holocaust, systematically carried out by Nazi Germany, resulted in the murder of approximately 6 million Jewish people, along with millions of others deemed undesirable by the regime. These dark chapters in our history reveal the terrible consequences when technology, ideology, and power converge without the restraining influences of compassion and ethical consideration. As we continue our exploration of history's most devastating events, we must acknowledge the role of unexpected geological forces in shaping human destiny. The 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami stands as one of modern history's most destructive natural disasters. Beginning with a massive undersea earthquake measuring 9.1 on the Richter scale, the resulting tsunami waves reached heights of up to 100 feet in some locations. Over 230,000 people across 14 countries lost their lives in this catastrophic event, with Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand suffering the greatest casualties. The sheer power of this disaster overwhelmed coastal communities within minutes, providing little warning or opportunity for evacuation. International aid workers described scenes of unimaginable devastation, with entire villages swept away and vital infrastructure destroyed beyond recognition. Throughout history, pandemics have repeatedly demonstrated their capacity to alter the course of civilizations. The 1918 Spanish flu pandemic emerged near the end of World War I and quickly became one of the deadliest disease outbreaks in recorded history. Despite its name, the disease did not originate in Spain, but spread globally with frightening efficiency due to wartime troop movements and poor health conditions. An estimated 500 million people became infected worldwide, representing about 1/3 of the planet's population at that time. The death toll reached between 20 to 50 million victims, far exceeding the casualties of the war itself. Medical professionals were largely helpless against this invisible enemy, with hospitals overwhelmed and communities forced to convert public spaces into temporary morgues. Unlike many diseases that primarily affect the vulnerable, this particular strain proved especially deadly for healthy young adults, devastating families and leaving countless children orphaned. Human error combined with technological failure has produced some of history's most preventable tragedies. The Bhopal gas disaster of 1984 in India represents one of the world's worst industrial catastrophes. On the night of December 2nd, 3, water entered a methyl isocyanate storage tank at a Union Carbide pesticide plant, triggering a violent reaction that released toxic gases into the surrounding communities. Safety systems that might have prevented the disaster had been disabled or were functioning poorly due to cost-cutting measures and inadequate maintenance. As people slept, the deadly cloud descended upon densely populated neighborhoods, causing immediate respiratory distress, blindness, and death. Conservative estimates place the death toll at over 3,700, while others suggest as many as 16,000 people may have perished in the immediate aftermath and subsequent years. Hundreds of thousands suffered long-term health effects, and the contaminated site continues to affect new generations through groundwater pollution and persistent toxins. The collapse of civilizations represents another category of historical disaster with far-reaching consequences. The fall of the Maya civilization between the 8th and 9th centuries CE remains one of archaeology's most fascinating mysteries. This sophisticated society, known for its advanced mathematics, astronomy, and monumental architecture, experienced a rapid decline that puzzles researchers to this day. Potential factors include severe drought exacerbated by deforestation, warfare between city-states, peasant revolts against the ruling elite, and possible epidemics. The once thriving cities with populations in the tens of thousands were abandoned, with magnificent temples and palaces reclaimed by the jungle. Archaeological evidence suggests the collapse was not uniform, but occurred over several decades, with different regions failing at different times. The ruling classes appeared to maintain their lifestyle even as the civilization around them crumbled, continuing to commission monuments and luxury goods while their agricultural base deteriorated. Famines have repeatedly devastated populations throughout history, often resulting from a complex interplay of natural conditions and human decisions. The Great Chinese Famine of 1959 to 1961 stands as perhaps the deadliest example in modern times. Occurring during Chairman Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward campaign to rapidly industrialize China. This disaster resulted from a perfect storm of bad weather, agricultural mismanagement, and misguided policies. Local officials, fearing punishment for failing to meet unrealistic production quotas, falsified harvest reports while continuing to requisition grain for urban areas and export. As a result, rural populations were left with virtually nothing to eat despite official records showing abundant harvests. The resulting famine claimed between 15 and 55 million lives, with some villages losing half their population. Survivors reported desperate measures to stave off starvation, including consuming tree bark, leather, and clay. Perhaps most tragically, the true scale of this disaster remained hidden from the world for decades due to government secrecy and denial. As you settle in and prepare for rest, let us explore some of the deeper patterns and lesser-known aspects of history's most devastating events. The psychological impact of disasters often extends far beyond physical destruction, creating collective trauma that can persist across generations. Research into disasters like the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear accident reveals fascinating insights about human responses to catastrophe. Studies conducted decades after the event show significantly higher rates of depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress among survivors, even in those who were very young when the disaster occurred. Perhaps more surprisingly, these psychological effects have been documented in the children of survivors who weren't yet born when the disaster happened, suggesting trauma may be transmitted through family systems and cultural memory. This phenomenon, sometimes called transgenerational trauma, helps explain why certain disasters maintain such a powerful hold on our collective consciousness long after the immediate danger has passed. The relationship between climate and civilization collapse offers intriguing patterns for our contemplation tonight. Advanced computer modeling of ancient climate data has revealed that many of history's most devastating societal collapses coincided with periods of extreme climate instability. The Late Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BCE, which saw the simultaneous downfall of multiple advanced civilizations, including the Mycenaeans and Hittites, occurred during a severe drought period that lasted several decades. Similarly, the decline of Cambodia's mighty Khmer Empire, builders of the magnificent Angkor Wat temple complex, accelerated during a period of unprecedented rainfall variability between the 14th and 15th centuries. These sophisticated societies had developed impressive water management systems that functioned well under normal conditions, but proved vulnerable to extreme climate fluctuations. The gradual abandonment of these once thriving centers reminds us that even the most impressive human achievements may be vulnerable to environmental changes that exceed their design parameters. The role of information flow during disasters presents another fascinating aspect worthy of our consideration as you drift toward sleep. Historical records show that the impact of many disasters was significantly amplified by communication failures or deliberate suppression of critical information. During the early stages of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, Soviet authorities delayed public announcements while attempting to contain the situation quietly, resulting in thousands of people being unnecessarily exposed to dangerous radiation levels. In contrast, Japan's long history of tsunamis led to the development of traditional warning systems and cultural knowledge that saved countless lives during modern events. Some coastal communities maintained ancient stone tablets warning future generations not to build below certain elevations, advice that proved prescient during the 2011 Tohoku tsunami. These historical examples demonstrate how transparent information sharing can dramatically reduce casualty figures, while information suppression often magnifies the human toll of disasters. Some of history's most devastating events reveal surprising connections that remind us how interconnected our world has always been. The massive eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia in 1815 ejected so much volcanic ash into the atmosphere that it altered global climate patterns for several years afterward. The following year became known as the Year Without a Summer, as far away as Europe and North America, where crop failures and livestock deaths triggered widespread food shortages. These agricultural disruptions contributed to economic hardship that some historians believe influenced social unrest and political developments across multiple continents. In a more creative consequence, the unusually gloomy weather during a summer vacation in Switzerland prompted a young Mary Shelley to write her masterpiece Frankenstein while confined indoors with her literary companions. This fascinating chain of connections illustrates how a single event on one side of the world can ripple through natural systems to affect politics, economics, and even artistic creation in distant lands. The recovery patterns from historical disasters offer hopeful insights about human resilience that may comfort you as you prepare for sleep. While catastrophes often cause immediate devastation, the long-term trajectories of affected regions sometimes reveal surprising positive developments. Following the Great Fire of London in 1666, which destroyed over 13,000 homes and 87 churches, the rebuilding efforts incorporated wider streets, brick construction instead of timber, and improved sanitation systems. These changes significantly reduced both fire risk and disease transmission in subsequent centuries. Similarly, the catastrophic 1995 Kobe earthquake in Japan led to revolutions in building codes and disaster preparedness that saved countless lives during later seismic events. Perhaps most remarkably, research suggests that communities that experience certain types of disasters often develop stronger social bonds and mutual aid networks that persist long after the initial recovery period. This phenomenon, sometimes called post-traumatic growth at the community level, demonstrates humanity's extraordinary capacity to find meaning and create positive change, even in the aftermath of tremendous suffering. The long-term environmental impacts of major disasters often extend far beyond our initial understanding, creating ripple effects through ecosystems for decades or even centuries. The 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico released approximately 4.9 million barrels of crude oil into marine environments, to becoming the largest accidental marine oil spill in history. While immediate effects on wildlife were obvious and devastating, with thousands of birds, sea turtles, and marine mammals found dead or severely injured, scientists have documented more subtle and persistent consequences. Deep-sea coral communities several miles from the well site showed damage consistent with oil exposure, while dolphin populations continue to experience reproductive problems and higher mortality rates years after the event. Perhaps most concerning, for long-term recovery, researchers have identified oil compounds preserved in seafloor sediments that may continue to affect marine life for generations to come. These persistent environmental legacies demonstrate how even brief catastrophic events can permanently alter natural systems in ways we're still working to fully comprehend. Disasters throughout history have frequently catalyzed significant advances in science, engineering, and public policy that benefit society long after the initial tragedy. The devastating 1931 China floods, which claimed up to 4 million lives when the Yangtze, Yellow, and Huai rivers overflowed simultaneously, eventually led to the development of some of the world's most sophisticated flood control systems. Following the 1976 Tangshan earthquake in China, which killed an estimated 242,000 people, seismologists gained crucial insights that advanced earthquake prediction capabilities worldwide. The horrific Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire of 1911 in New York City, where 146 garment workers perished because of locked fire exits and inadequate safety measures, directly inspired workplace safety regulations that have saved countless lives in the century since. These transformative responses to disaster illustrate humanity's remarkable ability to learn from tragedy and implement changes that protect future generations from similar suffering. The economic consequences of major disasters reveal complex patterns that challenge our intuitive understanding of recovery processes. Contrary to common assumption, research shows that economies often experience a temporary boom during reconstruction phases following physical disasters like earthquakes or hurricanes. This broken window fallacy can create an illusion of economic benefit while masking deeper, long-term costs. More insidious disasters like prolonged droughts or pandemics typically produce more uniformly negative economic outcomes without the offsetting reconstruction activity. Historical analysis of recovery trajectories suggests that societies with strong institutional foundations, diversified economies, and effective insurance systems generally recover more completely from disaster events. The economic aftermath of the 1755 Lisbon earthquake, which destroyed much of Portugal's capital city, offers a fascinating case study in disaster economics. The massive reconstruction effort drained the country's colonial wealth and contributed to long-term economic stagnation, despite the immediate construction boom, demonstrating how recovery dynamics can mask fundamental vulnerabilities that persist for generations. The psychological comfort we derive from studying historical disasters may seem counterintuitive as you prepare for sleep, yet understanding past catastrophes provides important perspective on our present challenges. By examining how previous generations survived and eventually overcame seemingly insurmountable difficulties, we gain confidence in our collective resilience. The 1918 influenza pandemic, which infected approximately 1/3 of the world's population and killed tens of millions, was eventually overcome despite limited medical knowledge and primitive healthcare systems compared to today. Ancient societies rebuilt after devastating earthquakes without modern construction equipment or engineering expertise. Communities recovered from volcanic eruptions that buried entire cities, from floods that displaced millions, and from famines that decimated populations. This historical perspective reminds us that human ingenuity and determination have repeatedly triumphed over disaster, offering reassurance that we possess the capacity to address even our most serious contemporary challenges.